Welcome to AO On Air. This is a podcast from ActiveOps, allowing us to present you topics ranging from operations management, leadership, technology, and new innovations. Check out all our episodes on YouTube channel AOTV or with your favorite podcast platforms such as Apple or Spotify. Now let's begin.
Hello, and thank you for joining. This is AO On Air. My name is Michael Cups, and I'm from ActiveOps. I'm really excited about our guest tonight. She's a customer of ours, and we're going down under again. We do this every now and then, about every month. We go to our Australian friends to learn from them. And Elle Bianco, I already messed it up, but Elle is joining us from CoreLogic, and she is based in Adelaide, Australia, I believe.
Yep.
And Elle,
Yep,
it's great to see you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Michael, and it's great to be talking with you. I've been with CoreLogic for 10 years, and prior to that, always in telcos or banking and finance, and always in service delivery or operations, and really passionate about process and how to make things easier for everybody, staff, customers. So the past 20 years, the change that's sort of been happening in our industry has really been immense, and it's really exciting. It's exciting to know what the possibilities are, that they're endless, and now what technology really presents us, such as automation and AI, which is, not something that I thought of 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm a complete convert to the cause of Lean Sigma and eliminating waste and process improvement. And this year I've just formalised my green belt in Lean Six Sigma.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm absolutely fascinated how tweaks in processes can make a big difference. And I think it's applicable in really all parts of our lives. Yeah. I'm just not sure my family love it as much as I do. When I say don't stack the let's clean the dishes this way.
Excellent.
And
I understand you have a big deployment today with your team, right? You have a big.
Yeah, this week we've had a big deployment with our CRM tool. So this is across all our CRM teams, all our customer relationship teams in Australia and New Zealand with the introduction of Salesforce. Yeah,
excellent.
It's been
big. And that's you probably applied Lean Six Sigma policies to getting that live too, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And how we communicated the change, it's very different to how we've done it in the past.
Well, excellent. Well, that's fantastic. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your team and your operations that you currently manage, and just tell it just so we can get to know you a little bit better, and kind of what the work is. Maybe you don't have to tell us specifically, but just kind of what it is that the team there does.
Yeah. So we have about 150 people in Australia that do everything from researching commercial property data to supporting real estate agents, banking and finance clients with valuations and property data. We've got about 100 people supporting us through an offshore provider in Manila called TELUS International, and we all use the same tools. So the difference really, what we all do is what level of experience that we have. So we're really providing support to all the industries that are using our platforms, that consume our platforms, primarily business to business. Yeah. So there's a really small section that's business to consumer, but primarily our customers are real estate agents, banking and finance clients, industry, insurance, government. That's who we're supporting. Yep. We're supporting them through requests for information or changes to accounts, anything that will help them help their customers.
Yeah, so the back office functions of
absolutely,
exactly, making sure that data is available. Yeah. And so because it's an ActiveOps podcast, I have to ask you, what is your experience with ActiveOps?
Yeah, so ActiveOps, I've actually been using ActiveOps since 2009 when I was with a different firm and as a team leader. I'd never used it before, and I was mesmerised by the amount of information I could gather, every week about my team. It was very manual back then. They were using forms to complete their tasks. When I moved to CoreLogic, we didn't have any tool to do that. We were really just managing queues, like not individually, but like, hey, how's that work going in that queue?
Yeah.
So the decision was made in 2015 to explore ActiveOps as a tool, because a group of us had come from the previous company, had all used it, and we felt like this was something that was going to really help our teams and our business understand where we were, because we were growing and we really didn't quite know how many people we needed.
Yeah.
Like, it was just such a fundamental. We didn't know if we had enough people. We didn't know how much time things were really taking. So in 2015, we made the decision to use ActiveOps as a tool, which we rolled out in Australia, New Zealand, and in our team in Manila. So I was responsible for the implementation on the CoreLogic side for Australia, New Zealand, and Manila. And yeah, I think when we introduced that, well, when you have the concept of knowing how much work you actually have, not just from a day, but your total work in progress, what's sitting in queues that sometimes don't get touched, it was, revolutionary for us, and really understanding what tasks are your teams doing.
Yeah.
Like, and do we really need to do that? Is that really a core task? Is that something that's going to make a difference to a customer? So when we started applying those concepts, it really did make a lot of people uncomfortable, but we were able to support the team through that, because, we were able to show that we were using the data that we were collecting to make really informed decisions, and we were able to go, when a new client would come on, we were able to say, we actually need 4 more people, or 3 more people,
Right.
or 2 more people, with the actual working out of, here's the core tasks, here's the time, here's the predicted volume, this is what the standard productivity tool that we're able to get, this is how many we need. And the business was not able to, was able to support us to say, okay, this is why we need this many people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We weren't able to do that previously, and that was a real powerful message to our senior leaders, to say, we know our business, and we're not just asking for more people. We're actually saying we need the people to support our business.
That's right.
Which was, again, revolutionary for us.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I'm going to get back to the ActiveOps stuff in just a moment. But,
Yeah.
but before I do that, I read a case study that you were part of. You had some quotes in there. And the one that struck me the most was, this was pre-pandemic, by the way, or maybe I read it during the pandemic because we all had free time. But you made a statement in there that was really telling to me. It said that we have to be ready for challenges, or you have to be ready for uncertainty, because you were faced with the fires in Australia before the pandemic, and then you had the pandemic. And can you just talk to us a little bit about preparing your team and your teams for handling just that uncertainty, that that not so much about the pandemic itself, but even the fires disrupted the way you work. So how do you get prepared for those?
Well, fundamentally, or first and foremost, I think, once you've made sure that your team members are physically okay, that they're not in, that they're safe and sound, tick, we've got that sorted. The next thing we move to is say, okay, well, how do we make sure that we can still service our customers? So having that flexibility of knowing we can move work, and having cross-trained people in our, key locations, means that we were able to, we have been able to move work very quickly from offshore to onshore, because Manila also have quite a few, they have natural disasters. So we need to be able to make sure that we can have the flexibility of moving. If the Sydney office goes down, we can bring some work to Adelaide. If the Adelaide office goes down, we can say, hey, is Sydney or Manila able to help us? Yeah. So having those plans and having that preparation is absolutely key. And And so for the fires in New South Wales, a lot of our staff members couldn't get to work because roads were closed, or they needed to be in emergency accommodation. So having that pressure taken away from them, saying, don't you worry about work, we'll worry about work, you make sure you're safe.
Yeah.
And if it's, in Australia, we've had fires, we've had floods, and so we've been able to use that model consistently. And I think when you tell your teams that it's okay, you stay safe, don't worry about work. That's the last thing you should be worrying about. We've got people in the background worrying about that.
Yeah.
You make sure you're safe. And that gives that, that buy-in when it's another area that they're wanting to help because they got that support.
Yeah.
So it actually, believe it or not, we actually had a pandemic plan as part of our BCP, which we sort of would laugh at. Like, when is there ever going to be something that we all can't go to work? But we did have a plan, and we just needed to enhance it and invoke it for the pandemic, which we were able to do. But that planning was absolutely paramount to us.
Yeah, that's amazing that it's fantastic that you had that plan that, like you said, you needed to evoke it and maybe make some modifications because well, I'm certainly older than you, and I haven't lived through one until then. So,
same.
Yeah,
I would laugh and almost, like, do we really have to do a pandemic plan? But someone in our organisation had foresight, or it could have been a customer requirement that we had something ticked, in a BCP plan, but we definitely had one, and we were able to get it out and go, okay, this is what we need to do. Yeah.
So that's fascinating, and so you've managed through that, and you probably managed through it better than some. But now let's stay on the employees, because you mentioned the employees and the feeling of making sure they feel secure, that focus on yourself and the work will happen. What about that employee experience? I mean, what is it that and how is it going for you guys? I mean, how do you ensure that employees, with the great resignation and quiet quitting and all these buzzwords that are going on, I mean, how do you focus on that employee experience?
Well, I think now that expectation of flexibility is just a given. That that the 5-day work in an office model probably won't come back, and making sure that we can support that, I think is something that we're going to do going forward. It's not even it's not even a pandemic reaction anymore. This is what people have asked. This is what people want and expect. So I think, it's something that we've been able to come up with a plan that looks like that can take us forward, ongoing.
Yep.
I think we didn't really, we did have, our other areas, probably more in a technical, more of an individual contributor type role. We saw more resignations, and obviously employment booms in those areas have meant that a lot of people have left, and some of them are coming back, which is, it's nice to see. But in our space, it was really about, hey, if you can give me the flexibility, I'm happy to keep working here.
Yep.
Because that's really important. I can look after some family members. I can spend more time with my family when I'm not commuting. So those things they've said are really important for us.
Yeah.
So I think for any company right now, it's to make sure that, hey, is this something that we can facilitate?
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, we can. We've done it. We did it when they were able to do it when we asked them to. So I think that goes both ways.
Yeah.
We're never going to be 100% remote, but we also won't be 100% work in the office.
Yeah.
So I think that flexibility is now just a given, as annual leave is. Or sick leave is. It's going to be an absolute given.
Yeah, it's a benefit for employees. That's fantastic that you were able to accommodate it, and it's interesting perspective. So let's take that. You earlier you were mentioning about customer expectations.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so it sounds like you were able to meet those customer expectations, even if people are working from home or working from the office or
yep,
both or any
absolutely. Yep,
combination thereof. And so can
yeah.
you tell us a little bit about have customer expectations changed since the pandemic?
Yeah, I think because we consistently provided, we never stopped, we never shut shop, not
Yep.
even for an hour, um, through since 2019. So I think the expectation is that we will always be there for them. So, you know, right now it's how do we do that for customers? How do we give them what they want when they need it? And for some customers, it's not during normal business hours.
Right.
It might be after hours, especially those servicing customers in a mortgage industry, they're speaking to customers during the day. They don't want to be speaking to us. So how do we make sure our model is going forward? You can access us or, a digital version of us 24/7.
Yep. Yeah.
But we'll be here if you need to talk to us in the times that we can, supporting normal business hours. So I suppose for us, it's customers say, you make sure what I need I can do myself. It's easy for me to do myself, and I don't need to speak to you. But if you do, we'll be here and we'll be able to service you to make sure you're delivering for your customer.
Yeah.
So I think it is really about availability and their flexibility. So are we working with them, not
Yep.
making it difficult for them to work with us?
Well, that's fantastic. And I bet your customers appreciate that. Number one, availability,
Absolutely.
but two,
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
they can trust, and that's probably a
Absolutely.
huge competitive advantage for CoreLogic.
Yeah.
So now I mentioned that we would maybe get back to ActiveOps. So you talked about availability just there with your customer expectations and your
Yeah.
customer experience, and so what role does ActiveOps play in that availability? Is it a staffing, capacity management, planning,
Yeah.
forecasting role? What's the key elements there?
I think it's really making sure that we've got that foresight into the planning.
Yep.
So understanding, do we have enough people to be able to service our customers? And from an ActiveOps, point of view, it's not just today and it's not just my team, it's holistically, do we have enough?
Yep.
So we could be okay, but our TELUS team might not be okay, or vice versa. So it's that holistic view of everybody together saying, can we service all of our customers next week or tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? Yeah. And that's the tool. That's really the power behind the tool, is that, again, getting to that planning and that preparation. Are we prepared? And yes, there's going to be bumps along the way. Sometimes there's an outage, or sometimes there's, other things that happen. But by and large, are we prepared for what's coming down our pipeline? And I think the last 7 years we've said, yes, we are prepared. We don't, our from a operations point of view, very rarely do we need overtime to complete work, because we've got enough people to do it during the day.
Yeah.
Those first couple of weeks in the pandemic were probably the exception, but we were clearly able to articulate, this is how many hours we need.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because your checklist was first make sure everybody's safe, so you probably had to deal with that. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
So if you were to think about the value of having that assurance and that plan, is customer experience, employee experience, where would you rank? I mean, what do you think are the best outcomes, kind of business-wise, not necessarily? Yeah.
I think there's two. I think really it gives, from an employee experience point of view, it gives us, the management team, gives us the credibility that we're doing something with the data.
Yep.
So, in our survey results, we'd often get feedback saying, you don't act on poor performers. We don't have enough people. You don't, when things go wrong, we need to know that you're hearing us. And so when you're able to break that down to say, well, now we have a tool that tells us who in the team is doing the work required to get this done. Yeah. And if not, we're able to have those conversations with data. It's not anecdotal, it's with data. Yeah. When new clients come on and, we were planning for, 1,000 widgets a day and it became 2,000. We saw it, we heard it. This is what we planned for. This is what we forecast for. That might have been wrong. We've been able to go back and say the forecasting was wrong, not the planning, but the forecasting. We need more people.
Yep.
Or, hey, we're looking at this work. Why are we doing this work? Where is this work being generated from? We're either able to go back to product to say the product is causing this work, or to the team leader saying, why are your team focusing on this work? It's not servicing customers.
Yeah.
It's, I've got a bit of a phrase I use. We're just busy being busy.
Yeah.
That's not busy delivering on customer. So it gives us the credibility for the team to know we're actually doing something with what's happening out there.
Yeah.
And that for the employee and for the, it gives that respect both ways. From a customer point of view, we know exactly how long did it take us to service you? What's our rework like? Are we fixing mistakes, or are we, taking too long on another piece of work? So from a customer point of view, that expectation of we're always, we're there to help you and we've got enough people to do so has meant it's really a non-event for them, which is exactly the perfect measure we want. When the customer doesn't need to come to us to say, hey, what's happening in that queue? That's perfect. It's no noise. No noise is good good news. No news is good news, I should say. So I think from both, it gives us credibility with our people and credibility with our customers.
That's great, Elle. Thank you so much for that. So my favorite question that I ask leaders like yourself, and you've done a great job of explaining how you guys have managed through some difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
But if there was somebody was hired as a new leader in your organization or anywhere else, and their acquaintance, what would your 3 tips be for leadership in operations?
I would say, in not in any order, know your numbers. So know what should be. So when you know your numbers, you can spot anomaly a mile away. Know your people, know them well enough to know when something's not right.
Yep.
And know your processes. So what are your team actually doing? When you know that and why they're doing it, I think that you'll be a very successful leader in operations.
That's great advice. That's great. That's fantastic advice. Anything else you want to share with our audience here? It's some of your peers. It's people you may meet at conferences. Anything else?
No, I think don't be scared. I think when you look at, I often say, your AOM reports are telling you a story. Don't be scared of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is. That's exactly. There's your proof, and you don't need an MBA to see the report and to look. Because it's telling you exactly what is happening out there. So dive in.
Dive in and trust the data, like you said. Yeah,
absolutely trust the data. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so nice to meet you, Elle. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If somebody wanted to pick up a conversation with you after watching this, is there a best way to reach you? Is it LinkedIn? Is it something else?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn. I don't really do the other socials, but LinkedIn is definitely the best way.
Okay, and we'll put your name on this on the YouTube side, and hopefully they'll meet you. But wonderful to meet you. Thank you for joining us early in your morning, late in our evening, but it's great to talk to our Australian friends as always. So thank you very much, Elle, and for everybody listening and watching. Just remember, you can go to ActiveOps.com to our resource center and see other podcasts, and you can also get data on our reports, anything that you need for us. And we also have just published a recent study about how to manage through a recession. So be sure to download that. And we look forward to talking to you the next time. Thank you very much. Have a great day.